Hello everyone, this is James from James Videos, and this is Nightmare House 2017, The Seas Haunt Build Day 5. A lot has been done today. First, I'm going to start off on the outside here, the outside of the front. You can see a wall's up right there, which is the wall that covers, the front wall that covers the roofed areas, which consist of the laboratory, the haunted schoolhouse, and the haunted mansion. So as you can see, that wall is up, which is great. If you remember in the past, though, that wall was used as wood. It was a wooden wall. The only reason that it's not wooden this year is because of Hurricane Irma. We had to board up the windows and we had to cut those pieces of wood. And so that kind of limits how much wood we can use. And this is an area that we don't need to use wood. So this is perfectly fine for that. So that's why that is different from last year, but it doesn't really matter. It actually makes it a lot darker because the wood is, of course, brown. So it's usually spray painted black, but this is still much darker than if we were to use wood. Tarp is actually something very easy to use. I wouldn't recommend using it in certain circumstances, like outer walls on the outside, but if you can use tarp or black plastic or whatever, that's my phone going off, if you can use that, it will be significantly better for you to use that, because it is a lot easier to put up. That was Avery that texted me. Okay, thank you, Avery. That wood is a lot harder to put up than black tarp. Well, I mean, it's still easy, but black tarp is much easier because you just staple it or nail it in and it's much easier. But really, use whatever works best for you. We live in Florida, so we don't get very many winds around this time of year. I mean, it gets cool every once in a while, but the winds aren't too bad. So black tarp does perfectly fine for this. You can see this cage is in here. This was in the laboratory from last year, so it's in the area that the laboratory is going to be in, just so it's ready. Don't mind all the stuff on the floor, and don't mind that chair. That's not going to be there for the haunt. It's just there for now. This area was cleared out today. The cars were moved out of here, and this whole area was cleared out. Over here, the reason that doesn't have a floor is because this is going to be the playground. This whole area right here was going to be the playground. Of course, this is the haunted schoolhouse, but my idea was to have a wall here and then a window in the middle of it so you can look out onto the playground, and I'll have ghost swing and stuff like that out there. But I decided the teacher's desk was way too big to fit into here. I mean, it is a very big area, but I have other things that I want to go in here as well. So the teacher's desk was way too big to fit in here. So I decided to just make this little area the playground, because the playground doesn't need to be too big, because I'm going to create effect where it looks like it keeps going on. So it doesn't need to be too big. So this is going to be the playground, and then this over here is the teacher's desk. This is a burnt down schoolhouse, so as you can see, I spray painted the desk, and this was already eroding quite a lot from being outside, so I spray painted the parts where it was breaking apart even more, which I think looks really cool because it actually looks burnt, which I really enjoy, and it looks very, very cool. Of course, some wood pieces, and there's the chair at the desk, which is tilted, of course, because it's not going to be straight. And then there's the broom, which I haven't talked about yet. I said the broom like I've talked about it before, but I really haven't. This is a broom that I worked on earlier this year. I spray painted it black, and then I cut a bunch of the little frills out from the bottom and spray painted that black too, so it looks burnt. It's just a little background prop, but you know, the more stuff, the better. Even if it's just small stuff, it still benefits the haunts. I'm going to have some books and stuff on the desk, and I'm also going to have like a fake apple, and it's like how teachers usually have, well, they don't really do it much anymore. It's usually fake apples now, but like back a long time ago, they used to have like real apples on their desks and stuff. I want to do that, get a fake apple, and to make it look old and rotten, and put a worm coming out of it, which I think will look pretty cool. And the boogeyman is going to be the teacher, so he's going to stand right there at the exact same spot, actually, that he stood last year for a completely different scene. Last year, this was Until Death Do Us Part, Of course, there was the stained glass window there, and it was the church look, and that was the podium, and Boogeyman was behind the podium. The reason I used him for the preacher is because he's wearing a suit, and he just looks like this demented, messed up preacher. And this year, I want to use him for the teacher because he's wearing a suit, and he looks like a demented, messed up teacher. So I think that'll work. And last year he was behind a podium, doing wedding rounds and stuff. This year he's behind a desk, teaching demonic children. So that should be pretty cool. And I'm going to have children desks right there with little kid props, like Reagan and some other things. I just want to show this a little bit better since there's this light. It's still nighttime, but we have work lights right here, so I just want to show this better since you didn't get to see it very well in the last build. There's the pipe wrench weapon right there. And right here is the mannequin that I was talking about, which I think looks really cool. It's spray painted like that, so it looks like just a bunch of spray paint got on it. Paint and all of that. It's going to look all messed up like this if it's been through the end of the world. Last year, if you remember, when it was in the end, or whatever you want to call it, however you want to pronounce that. I like to say the end because it makes a little bit more enunciation on the fact that it's a theme, and I'm not talking about the actual end of the haunt. But it was in there, but it didn't have any paint on it or anything, so it just looked kind of plain. It's supposed to look like a mannequin stolen from a store and just left in the streets during the end of the world. So it looked kind of plain last year, but this year it definitely looks much cooler. And this is not how it's going to be. It's just like that for now. It's probably going to be leading up against something even better, probably like that. And I know that this thing last year, if you guys remember, I had the bloody short circuit light on it to look like a street light. And I'm going to do that again this year, which I think is going to look pretty cool. Here's the boathouse without the fire and ice light, because the fire and ice light isn't on right now, so I just want to show you kind of the detail in the boathouse. There's the fire and ice light. You see the little crab down there. Not much is done with the boathouse. The fresh fish thing. Here's the plants and stuff I put in. Now this is also some big progress that was done today. More walls were put up. These walls were actually, this was the exact wall in this area from last year, Scary Christmas, but I needed to cover up the word that said Krampus with black spray paint, and it's still kind of visible a little bit. Not really though. And there was also snow coming down with, spray painted on snow, and I kind of had to cover those up. So that's why the black, some parts look like they stick out a little bit more, because that's spray paint on the tarp. Because I needed to cover up the Scary Christmas stuff, because this is Pirate Town. It definitely looks so much cooler with, for one, with the spotlight off, and two, it looks so much cooler with the wall, because now I can definitely see the separation of themes. There still needs to be that back wall over there, and so many more walls need to be done. I just want to show this real quick. This whole area right here still does not have poles. Usually at this time, it's all the poles are in. But the thing is, we're going actually faster this year. We're getting walls up before poles. Well, we're doing some poles, putting walls up, then doing the rest of the poles, put those walls up, do more poles, put those walls up. So it's not just all poles at once, all walls at once. It's poles, walls, poles, walls, poles, walls, which I think actually makes things go quite significantly faster, because last year the walls weren't put up until the 22nd. And it is the 19th, so we are a few days ahead. Even though the poles aren't up yet, we're still, the walls are very important. So, the poles are important too, because they support the walls, but walls definitely take significantly longer than poles do. Poles are probably the most boring part, because they're just these poles being stuck in the ground from digging up the ground and then just sticking poles in. They're probably the most boring part, but they need to be done, and so I just feel like it's better this year doing walls, poles, walls, poles, walls, poles, or poles, walls, poles, walls, poles, walls, whatever. That's gonna hopefully make things go faster. So these poles are going to be put up tomorrow, which should be good. And then no more walls are going to be put up tomorrow besides those walls to block off that area completely, I believe. And then no more walls other than that. That looks really creepy, looking up at the house and then just seeing the night sky. I don't know why, it just looks really creepy. It looks like an old house for some reason. Well, I mean, it is old, but it looks even older. It's from the 1900s though, so it's not extremely old, but it's significantly old. It's the oldest house on my street, so that's nice. Definitely helps towards making haunts at it. But like I was saying, those walls are going to be put up tomorrow. None of these walls are going to be put up tomorrow. There needs to be like at least 10 walls in this area. At least. I think there's probably going to be more. Because you guys know how big this area is in the haunt. This is the biggest used space for the haunt. And so a lot of walls need to be put up here. Even though there aren't walls yet, I put up another pole here. Even though there aren't walls yet in this area, I still started Island of the Headhunters. Because why not? Those are just there. That's not how they're going to look. They're just there so they're ready to be put there. Right here is the throne for the Tiki God. The Great Kawaka is his name. The thing is, this is much better than last year's throne. Last year's throne was awful looking. I mean, I did make it a little better because I added bamboo to it and stuff, but for the most part, it looked bad. Even that fish guy said that I should get a much better throne. I remember his comments saying that last year, and he's right. I should have, but it did for the time. But now I have a much better throne. This throne is actually supposed to be a tribal chair, which I think is great. You can see it's kind of weaved like that, and it looks like bamboo and all that. It looks tribal, and it's supposed to be a tribal chair. It also is much more fitting for the throne. The other one went up to about here. It was about that tall. This one is huge. The seat is far down, and then the back of it just sticks up really far, and it gives the effect of a throne. I think the Great Kawaka is going to look awesome in that, especially when I add the bamboo and all of that. I think this is definitely going to be a much more fitting throne than last year's throne for sure. And enough with talking about the throne. I'm going to walk you through Pirate Town so we can go on over to Rabid Zoo, which has a wall up now. Rabid Zoo actually has all of its walls up because it's got that wall on that side and then this wall on this side. There's the lion. I had to scoot him over a little because the wall, he was a little bit past where he could be for the wall boundaries, but he still looks good right there, just greeting guests as they walk in. I know you can't really see him. Actually, I'm going to just get my phone out and turn on the flashlight just so you can see him better. There you go, that's the lion. I took the vines off of him because they weren't staying on very well, so I'm going to have to secure those better. But I just want to show you real quick. So this is, of course there's going to be a doorway here, but as of now, they're going to be walking through Pirate Town. Guests will be walking through Pirate Town, seeing all this. Then they turn the corner, and this is the first thing they see when they get into Rabid Zoo, which I think is very cool. Welcoming them into the Demented Zoo. And if you remember last year, this scene was the worst scene, probably. Even Blood Forest was better than this scene, and Blood Forest was not that successful. This scene was honestly the worst scene out of all of them from last year. Reason why? There was not enough stuff in it. And it is such a big path. It is huge. It's about 10 feet across, maybe even more. And so the fact that it only had a few things in it, it had Ghostface, Terror TV, and a few other things, kind of took away from the potential that this scene could have had. It was the die-in, of course, like a movie theater drive-in, like a Demented drive-in theater. And it was not that great. I mean, it was good, but it definitely was not that great. Ghostface was right there, Terror TV was right here, you had a table with a spider eating a victim over there, and all of that. It was good, but it just wasn't the best. I wanted to have that theme return this year. Well, before Halloween, I was thinking, this sounds like it's going to be a great idea. I might even have it return year after year. But then when I saw the finished product of that theme, I was like, that's probably the worst one this year. It was still good, but it was not what it could have been. So I want to take that theme and make it so much better. It can be made, well, this area, and make this area so much better and make it actually a good theme. And so I think Rabid Zoo is going to be perfect here. Ever since I thought of the idea of Rabid Zoo, I've been imagining it in here, and I've been thinking about the idea of Rabid Zoo, I believe, since last November. So one of my first ideas for this year's haunt. It's going to be great because I have much more props to put in this one. I have Limb Ripper, I have Cerberus, I have a bunch of spiders, snakes, etc. And I'm going to make a tiger prop, which is going to be cool. So I definitely think this scene will definitely be good. And this one might actually return year after year, because this one I know is definitely going to be much better than last year's. And over here is the walls for Ghost Ship. Of course, that's going to be the entryway to Ghost Ship, and then the Ghost Ship itself will be right there. Guess we'll walk on the bridge right here. There will be water under it, maybe a prop right there next to the ship on like a little island. And the Ghost Ship itself is going to go all the way across here, which I think is going to look really, really cool. It's going to be firing cannons, I guess, as they go through, and that is a very big passageway too, which is great. Last year this was the Pirates Cove, and it actually went a little bit farther back, the wall did, but that's because there was a lot of stuff being put into this theme. This year it's mainly only the Ghost Ship in this scene and one other prop. There's not really much else to it. And the Ghost Ship is going to be flat, just like all of the other buildings that I usually make. Some of them are three-dimensional, but a lot of them are flat. So I am hoping that it will look good and that it will actually turn out good. It's not going to be completely flat though, because there's going to be cannons sticking out of it, so it will give the effect that's three-dimensional. And usually in person, the flat buildings and stuff look three-dimensional. They actually do. They look great in person. They may not look as good on camera, but they look good in person, which I think is good. And I might need to cover this up because that's supposed to be the night sky for the Ghost Ship. So I might need to cover up the Jack the Jester quote here. And I might cover up most of the Jack the Jester, Janice, Stephen, the mayor, all their quotes, because it's supposed to be the night sky. And it kind of it worked for 2015 and 2016, because those were just like, 2015 was kind of just random themes. Well, yeah, 2015 was great, but you know, it was kind of random. Well, all the years have just been themes put together because it's supposed to be a town, so there was never really a set theme. In case you've never seen my other haunts, which I highly suggest you see them, because then you'll get an idea of what this year will be like. Of course, this year I hope to make better, much better, but still, you can get the idea. Hey, Sparky, Shadow. But 2015, it worked. 2016, it worked best because that was 5 Years of Fear, so having quotes from the icons of the haunt were definitely was definitely very cool for last year. This year, since it has more of a set theme, because if you haven't really heard what I've said before, the reason I'm doing a set theme now is because last year was the 5th anniversary, so I want to change something up since it's been 5 years of kind of the same routine of just doing multiple themes. I want to change stuff up. Of course, there is going to be some themes that don't go along with the overall theme, but I am having an overall theme this year, of course, which is pirates. That's why it's called Nightmare House 2017 The Seas. And so I definitely want to make things more realistic and not have the quotes on the walls and stuff. The quotes were good for last year, like I said, since it was a 5th anniversary year, so having quotes from the characters were good. But this year, I might want to cover them up just to make it look better. Let me know in the comments below if you think it should be like that. Because another thing to note about my haunt, it is supposed to be a town. If you don't know the lore story, it's, of course, the Nightmare House lore. The movie's coming out soon, so that should sum it up even better than I'll do right now. But it's a town that some serial killers killed everyone in, and then all the monsters and demons and spirits came back to life to haunt the town, and the town just keeps getting crazier and more crazy over the years. Ever since 1856, the town's just been getting more and more old, and there's been more and more creatures and monsters and demons and spirits invading the town over the years. And this year, the whole idea of the haunt is that pirates are invading the town off of the waters. They're pulling in, and this town is supposed to be in Louisiana. And the thing is, it's kind of like, it's a town that's secluded from everyday life. It's a forgotten town. It's not an actual town that exists in Louisiana, of course, because it's a fictional story. But it's a forgotten town, and it's kind of secluded. The town's actually not supposed to be there anymore. This is the whole story. The town is no longer in Louisiana, but when you step on the grounds that it used to be before it was tore down, you go into an alternate universe, a spiritual universe, and you can walk through the town itself and see all the stuff. So that's pretty much the whole idea of how you're going to this town and seeing this stuff. That's been the backstory for every year of the haunt, and really that is why there's writing on the walls even when it's supposed to be outside. It's a spiritual realm, so there can be stuff like that. It's kind of like you're seeing visions and stuff, seeing their quotes and stuff like that. It's something I've never really said about the haunt. I've told the lore, but I've never really explained that spiritual realm thing before. But there you go. Now you know the spiritual realm thing. That's never really explained in the lore, because the lore, Nightmare House lore, the movie, you'll see it kind of ends, when that comes out, it kind of ends abruptly after Jack and Janice, which are the killers, take over the town. It kind of ends with saying now they control the town, and it keeps getting more demented every year ever since 1856. But it never explains the spiritual realm thing. That's more of something that I kind of want to keep hidden and just have people figure out on their own. But I've kind of said it now, but that's perfectly fine, because people who don't watch this video still will have to figure it out on their own. And I feel like a lot of people might have already figured that out, because just the fact that I say that it's in Louisiana, even though it's not a real town, I think a lot of people may have figured that out already. But anyways, oh, also, in case you don't know, the reason it's called Nightmare House, the haunt is called Nightmare House, is because the town is called Nightmare. So there you go. I know this isn't really talking about the build, but I just wanted to let you guys in on some stuff. And I know this has been a 21-minute build, which is really long, so I'm going to end it here, because that is really long for a build video, and a build video should not be that long. So I'm just going to end it right here. And I hope you all enjoyed this Nightmare House 2017 The Seas Haunt build video. Another one will be coming tomorrow. And we're getting close to Halloween. It is less than 2 weeks away now. So I'm really excited. I hope you guys are excited. It's our favorite day of the year, and it's less than 2 weeks away. Need to start getting busy on our haunts. Need to get ready, because here it comes. Let's make this Halloween the best one yet. I hope you all enjoyed. Keep howling at the moon, my werewolves. Please comment, rate, and subscribe.